Welcome to Dungeon Brew. I am Josh, and this is my series on world building, where I lead you through a series of videos on how I build worlds for my TTRPGs. So kick back, relax, and I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Salutations, my fellow primates. I hope you're having an excellent beginning to your new year and that you're as excited about this series on world building as I am. I'm going to be leading you through 24 videos, this being the first one of how I build worlds for TTRPGs. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I've been building worlds for a really long time, decades even. John and I, when we were young children, used to sit down and create fantastical worlds together, and then we would go out and use our imagination to explore those worlds that we had created, like young kids do, fighting with sticks out in the yard, fighting invisible creatures, exploring untraveled lands using our very vivid imaginations. Or we would go inside and create maps and use tokens and figurines to explore, the tall peaks of the mountains, or to explore the wild seas, and we'd create rules and mechanics in real time as we would be playing those games. As the years have gone by, we've realized that we build worlds differently, though, and in many ways they actually complement each other. I think this is why we've been successful in co-writing books that have won international awards, why we have been able to build games together even into adulthood, and why we continue to play TTRPGs together in oftentimes worlds that are shared between the two of us, that we have built in unison in some way. In fact, some of our games that we have played have later been written into either lit RPGs or short novels about the gaming experience that we had during those TTRPGs. But bottom line up front, John and I have different approaches to how we build worlds. And I think that we both have the same goal in mind, which is to sit down and play a great game and have a lot of fun with our group of friends and family that we regularly play with. But we have different motivations, I think, and different pathways on how we get there. And my approach to world building has honestly changed quite a bit since my teenage years. As I have grown older and I have kind of gotten into the stride of being a writer and telling stories, I have been very focused on the story that is being told. I'm looking at the plot arcs, I'm looking at the character arcs, I'm looking at the unfolding and development of world events and how that's impacting and what lessons are being learned during the course of gameplay. And that may be a little unique for some folks, because I think that many individuals come to sit down and play a game like a TTRPG and just are wanting to sit down and have fun and don't really want to have to think about what it is that they're doing. But I like having that moral of the story. I like having that lesson that's being learned. I like interweaving real history and real knowledge into the course of the game that is being played. And so that is something that I pay a lot of attention to while I am building my world. I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself, but I really enjoy the story. I focus very heavily on the story. And I think that part of the reason I do that is because the believability and the depth of the world and the story that's being told really makes or breaks the game, in my opinion. And if you are not telling a great story, if there's this falsity about the game that's being played, then you're going to have players like myself that would just write it off, fall out of the immersion of what's going on. And so I very heavily focus on the story that's being told. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more during the course of this series, I'm sure, but probably also here in this video. Please excuse me as I interrupt myself from going on a complete tangent about the importance of having a great story in the course of your world that you are building, as well as your TTRPG. I wanted to point out there are a couple of tools that I use that are going to differ from the tools that John shared in his introduction video, and you're probably going to find that he and I both use different tools when we create worlds, as well as when we are making campaigns for our TTRPGs. So a couple that I utilize that I don't know any other game master that does, so if you do, please let me know. But I use Aeon Timeline, which I really enjoy. It allows me to detail dynasties and wars and births and deaths of noble families and all sorts of different things that I can see visually instead of having these written down in something like a lore book where I'm flipping through the pages trying to find something. I also really like to use twine, which I know is primarily used for narrative design, but I believe that running a TTRPG and building a world both require an understanding of narrative design in some sense. And so I utilize this tool to string together events and choices, and this comes along later, of course, when I am looking at quest development and campaign development, which we will be talking about some in this series as well, but I think it's a great tool to be utilized by game masters. All right, let's get back to the importance of world building. And so then the question has to be asked, why is world building so important? Why should game masters spend the time and the energy to watch series like this or read books to understand political intrigue or religious influence or cultural development or topography or wind patterns or flora or fauna or all the things that go into making the tapestry of a world? And the answer is world building is the lifeblood of a TTRPG. It allows us to set the stage that is understood by both the game master and the players, where they can come together and collectively tell a story in a reality that is both familiar enough to them but also fantastical enough to lend itself to a tabletop role-playing game. And that's what makes it really exciting. Without having that stage, then it can be very difficult to come together and have fun in that collective storytelling experience. And so we are going to be spending the next 23 videos of this series with me explaining to you the process I go through in creating that stage. And so what we're going to include in these next mini videos that we make are things like how to develop your pantheons, how to develop your geography, how to create cultures that are realistic but also unique. How do we decide what flora and fauna go into what parts of the world and decide where that should be at? We're going to look at history and lore, which is some of my favorite pieces of world building in terms of the dynasties and the noble families and the rise and fall of civilizations and how that impacts the characters. We're also going to be talking about how to develop adventures and quests later on that fit within the framework of the world that we have built. And I'm going to show you a lot of the tools and things that I've created over time, including newspapers to make the story more immersive, and trees of families that I've inserted into the worlds that I've done, perhaps some of the different markets and economics that I've created within the worlds, all these different things that I've developed over the time in the mini worlds that I've created. But where we're going to end at after this series is looking at world refinement, which for me is one of the most exciting pieces of playing TTRPGs, and it's why I keep coming back again and again. Because even after you build your world and give this blueprint of what the world looks like to your players, you then invite them in to come and play in that sandbox with you, and they get to make decisions in the world that may change or impact or shape the world a little bit differently than how you first imagined. So the world building process doesn't end just because you started the game. It continues to evolve and change as the players come in and make decisions in that world or join you on the stage to tell the story. And we're going to talk about that at the end of the series. So I hope that you will stick with me all the way through. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell so that you keep up to date with these videos as they're coming out, and leave me some comments down below about what it is that you're excited about or what you're hoping that I will speak about, and I will see you all next time.
Judge and Crew.